So I think the first time I found out that the opposite of love wasn't hate but indifference, I felt like it was a really, really big revelation. Like, oh gosh, the outside is so noisy. Anyway, the birds are really loud here. I'm next to a road. But, yeah, so the opposite of love isn't hate but indifference. And I think I was like 20 or so, like early 20s, late 10s when I found out about this. And I think it was a big revelation because prior to that, I guess there has always been that dichotomy set up of like love, and then if you don't love somebody, you hate someone. And it's never really occurred to me that there could be something else besides these two ends of the equation, the spectrum, right? So I think that's the thing with false dichotomies, and also kind of like why I wanted to talk about why this channel is called Option C. So another thing that is also related to false dichotomies and I really enjoy is this thing on Tumblr that is the format of not A, not B, but a secreted C, a secreted something. So for example, like not boy, not girl, but a secreted gender, and then in brackets it will say like, let's say non-binary. And I always found that very funny. It appeals to my kind of humor, I guess. And like, yeah. So I think I may not be using the term dichotomies like completely correctly, but just as a frame of thinking, right? Like the idea that we have one thing, another thing, and that everything else has to either be A or B is kind of like one level of thinking. The next level of thinking could be then that there is a like linear spectrum between these two things, right? And then like another level of thinking could then be that there isn't just this two line, it could be a plane, it could be on higher planes, lower planes. I mean, higher and lower here are relative, it's not any moral judgment or anything. But like, yeah, so the idea that like there's only, how to say, that there's like, 2 points and then we start off from there. As much as I guess like the fact that I've decided to call this channel Option C, C being like any of this like not A and not B options. And A and B itself can also be any of the final options that you choose for yourself. I'm rambling a bit. Let me get back to the point. So the thing is that like why this idea of false dichotomies is useful, I think, is that first it kind of breaks you off the idea that there could only be like, one way of looking at opposites, right? I mean, in one way you can look at the opposite of love being hate. Like there is a certain value, judgment and framework that comes from, and then looking at it from the point of view of the opposite of love is not hate but indifference. You're coming at it from another point of view, right? Like the opposite of love is hate. It's coming from the point of view of I have a lot of feelings, and when the feelings are positive it's love, and when it's negative it's hate. So that is one value, one scale that it has been used, right? And then the other scale for the opposite of love is not hate but indifference. For love and indifference, it's kind of like what I'm measuring or scaling here is really like that there's a lot of feelings and that there isn't a lot of feelings. So there's a lot of feelings when there's love, and in the case of love is positive, in the case of hate is negative, but both of these have a lot of feelings. And then the opposite of that is indifference, in which there isn't a lot of feeling about anything. So like all of this, I guess we are all really setting up false dichotomies, but the point isn't really that it's false, it's that it's useful as a point of a frame of reference. And I guess what I'm saying is like I don't always set up this kind of like A and B format to kind of be like this is bad, this is good, or whatever the case it is. It's kind of more of a way to structure the thinking, to kind of just think like, hey, if we think of something this way, like this way being like A and B could just be very common default options that are available, very commonly seen, commonly exercised options that people use. And using that as a springboard to kind of think about like what would then be my personal choice? What could then be your personal choice? Like, there's no right or wrong answer, I think, but it's more of like a structure or framework that I've decided to set up to help make this conversation a bit easier for me. And I think I've been rambling about the same point, and I do need to go to do something else. So I'll end off today over here. So this is QAnon option C. I don't think I've said this before, but this is QAnon option C. See you next time.